I'm going to work on the Pray and Crochet newborn baby hat. This is a hat that I had made with the pattern, and I'm using a thicker yarn just to be able to illustrate the stitches better. So this is what our hat is going to look like. I'm going to do it in steps, and the first step is to create a magic circle. And that's what we're going to do with our hat. The beginning of our hat is going to start with a magic circle, and then we're going to do the rounds around it. So make sure that you have your pattern handy for your newborn hat, and you want to make sure that you follow the material instructions. But like I said, I'm using a thicker yarn and a bigger hook. The material says to use a medium weight yarn, and it's a 4 worsted weight yarn and a crochet hook I, which is 5.5 millimeters. Like I said, mine is bigger. So first, we're going to start off with a slip stitch around our needle, our hook. So we're going to take the tail of our yarn, we're going to wrap it around our fingers, we're going to crisscross in front, and we're going to take the tail and loop it through so that we have a circle here. We're going to insert our hook, and we're going to give it a little tug. Okay, so that is your slip stitch. With all crochet projects, you're going to do that. So again, I'll show you once again. And if you find that you're confused on any of these techniques, you can just take a look back onto the video. So you're going to take the tail of your yarn, wrap it around your 2 fingers, crisscross in front, make a little loop in between your fingers with the tail, insert your hook, and give it a little tug. Make sure it's nice and snug. The next thing I want to show you is how to hold your yarn. So you're going to take there's a lot of different ways to hold your yarn, but I find this a good way to maintain a consistent gauge, which you want with all of your projects. So you're going to take your pointer finger, and you're going to sort of loop around that yarn, around that pointer finger. And you're going to take these 2 fingers, your middle finger and your thumb, and that's where you're going to hold on to your work. So you can get a good gauge by loosening this finger and tightening this finger, okay? So you're going to take the other 2 fingers and keep your yarn in between those. So take a good look at that, and that's how you can hold your yarn a lot easier. It makes things just a lot easier to hold it correctly. Okay, so we're going to start off with round 1, as your pattern says, to chain 4. Now this is a chain. I'm going to work on a chain, and that's a basic stitch. So you're going to take your hook and bring through that yarn, through that loop right there, and that's a chain. So that's 1 chain, and that's 2 chains, 3 and 4. So there you have your 4 chains. Okay. Now next it says 12 DC in the 4th chain from your hook. So you're going to take a look at what you just did. Okay. And you're going to count. So here, if you can see the stitches, which I hope you can, this is your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So you're going to go right into here, this spot, right here. Right at the end, not your knot that you made, your slip knot, but your last stitch, your first. It would actually be your first stitch that you did, but your last stitch from the hook. So I'm going to show you how to do a double crochet. So your double crochet is yarn over from front to back, and you're going to insert into that spot that I just showed you. You're going to pull your yarn through that first loop. You end up with 3 loops. You're going to pull your yarn through the next 2 loops right there, and then you're going to pull your yarn through the next 2 loops after that. So there is a double crochet. I will show you again. Yarn over, go through that same spot. You're going to do 12 of them, okay? So you're going to do, you just had 1, so you're going to do 11 more. Okay, so I'll start from the beginning there. So yarn over, through that same spot, pull through that first loop, pull through the next 2 loops, and pull through the next 2 loops after that. So that's your second one. So you have 12 to do, so you have 10 more to do. As you can see, my yarn and my hook are going to move a little differently than yours because I have a different weight. Okay, so yarn over, and you're going to insert into that spot. You're going to pull through the first loop, pull through the second loop, pull through that first loop, yep, and pull through the first 2 loops, pull through the next 2 loops. I will show you that again. Yarn over, go through that same spot, pull that yarn through. You have 3 loops to work with, pull through 2 loops, and then pull through 2 loops again. Okay, so let's count. We're not going to count the first one because it doesn't say that in our directions. Sometimes it does say in directions where it'll say your first double crochet counts as your 3 chains start as your first double crochet, but in this pattern it doesn't say that, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so we're going to count. We're not going to count our first one, the first chains. We're going to count these brackets right here. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's how you can retrace your steps if you don't know what number you're on. So we have number 4, and I'll show you one more time. Yarn over through that same spot, pull your yarn through, and you have 3 loops. Pull through the first 2, and the next 2. Okay, so we're going to go on, and because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have 7 more to go. Okay, so I left it at the end there, not counting that first one. That was your chain 3, or chain 4, excuse me. We're going to count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so you're going to end up here, and what you're going to do is you're going to do a slip stitch on the top, okay, of the 4 chains that you did in the beginning. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you're going to slip stitch right to the top of that chain in the back loop. Okay, so watch what I'm doing here. In that back loop. Okay, so you're going to insert your hook into that back loop and then just pull your yarn through those 2 loops. So what you've done here is you've connected your magic circle. So there you go with your magic circle. Okay, and as I showed you before, that is the beginning of your hat, and that's going to be the top, very top of it. So when we're moving on to round 2, and we have to do chain 3. So we're going to chain 3, just pull that right through the loop. We have 3 chains. The next step, it says to 2 DC in each DC around, which means 2 double crochet in each double crochet around. So what you're looking at here and what your working loops are just the edge of what you've been working on, and you're always going to work in the back loop. There are patterns that say to work in the front loop, and sometimes both. But we're working in the back loop because that's what it doesn't say. So we're just going to work in that one. Okay, so we're going to do 2 DC in each one of these. Okay, so watch how I do that. I'm going to do a yarn over, insert hook, pull through, just like we DC double crochet before. Pull through 2 and pull through 2 again. And then now we're going to do the same thing in the same loop. Okay. So there you have 2 DC in that back loop. And you're going to go on to do that with each of your loops around, as the pattern tells you. And when you're crocheting, you want to be mindful of the gauge that you're using, the consistency of the tension that you're using with your fingers to hold your yarn. Okay, because what can happen is you can start off really tight and then start to get a lot looser. So you want to make sure that you kind of have a good consistency, because otherwise it can warp your project a little bit. So we have 2 in each here, and we're just going to go on to do 2 all the way around. So I'll finish up this one, and then I'll let you go on to do the rest. Okay, so we have 2 here. So you're going to do 2 in the back loop, and you're going to stop right at the end there. Okay, so I'm finished with my round, my round 2 that we have been working on, with the 2 double crochet in each double crochet around. Now what you want to make sure that what you're doing is, and even with a stitch marker if you have any, or you can use something else like a clothespin or whatever, just to mark that the end of what your work there, that you're going to stop. Because what I've been finding is some of my ladies have been continuing on up the chain, and what happens is your work just continuously goes into a circle, and you will end up having an uneven edge at the end. So you don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that you end at that very beginning where those chains that you did, the 3 chains going up, you want to make sure you end right at that end. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing to connect the circle, and we're going to do a slip stitch. So we're going to do it right at the top there, at that back loop, and bring it right through. So we're here what's happening is we're getting a little, kind of like a little dome, and you may or may not be getting that yet. I have it developing because I have a bigger yarn, I have thicker yarn and a thicker needle hook, so mine's starting to look like that, but give it a little time and yours will too. So we're going on to round 3, and this round is different from round 2. This one has a little bit of a pattern with your double crochets that you're going to be doing. So we're going to chain 3 just like the beginning of the other rounds, and you're going to be doing that with all of your new rounds. And the pattern says next to 2 DC and next DC, and then DC and the next DC. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook into the back loop. We're doing 2 DC in this one, just like the one before, but the pattern varies where the next loop, your next stitch is going to be in the back stitch there, but you're only doing 1 DC instead of 2. And moving on. So the next set is 2 DCs. And then 1 DC. Always working in that back loop. Okay? So that's your pattern. So you're just going to do 2 DC the next, in the same loop, and then moving on to 1 DC. So this round takes a little bit more concentration. If you mess up and you don't understand like how many ones you're supposed to do, you can go back and count. With thinner yarn, it's a little bit more complicated, but you can count. See, I have 2 here, 1 here, 2 here, 1 here, 2 here, and 1 here. So you can go back and count. And again, with any of your work, if you're finding that you're having a difficult time and it's not turning out right, it doesn't look right, just take it out and go back to where you understand your work and what you've left off with. So that's the best way I find a lot of the ladies learning, is just taking their work out and going back and backtracking. So we're going to just continue on with the pattern. I left off with 1 here, and then you're just going to continue on with the pattern, and you're going to stop right at that last stitch just before you chained the new round. So this is where we're going to end. We're going to end right at that beginning. Now I just want to show you that this is the inside of my hat. If you find that yours kind of looks different than mine, all you got to do is really do it the other side, turn it around, and you'll see that it looks like mine. So we want to work on this side. This is the outside of our hat, and I think it looks prettier than this side. So next we're going to just connect it, just like we have been, right? And you're ending right at the very beginning of your round, and you're just doing that slip stitch right there. Okay. So here we go, and we finished round 3. Okay, and round 4. It says next round 4 through 10. So we're going to do 6 of these rounds. Okay, 6 separate rounds. So you're going to go all the way around and connect all the way around. You're going to continue that for 6 times. Okay, this one is a very easy one, and all we're doing is double crocheting in each round, loop. So we're not doing 2, we're just doing 1. So we're just going to chain our 3, like it says in the pattern, and double crochet in each one around. Just 1. So we did our 1, we're moving on to the next, and we're just using those back loops like before. Okay? And as you start doing this, you're going to really start seeing your hat starting to form. Now I just want to let you know too is there's a lot of yarns that are out there that are a lot of fun to look at, but it's difficult when you're a beginner to use those yarns because you want something very plain. Even the variegated yarns with the different colors in them, those can also be a little tricky for newbies that are, you're just learning. You want to make things as simple as possible. So we really don't want to complicate things. The furry ones, those are really hard to see your stitches. I don't recommend those as well. I don't even use that stuff. So just stick with your standard yarns. There's lots of fun textures like softness that you can use, and ones that are made of different materials. So this is a nice soft yarn. So as you saw me doing, I'm just going and doing double crochets around. Okay, and we're going to go all the way to the end, and we're going to do the same slip stitch and then move on to the next round. And again, you are doing 6 of these. Okay, so if you find that you're losing track, just count your rounds. And your rounds you can see very plainly are these. So this is your magic circle, round 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm sorry. This one is, yes, okay. So we are on round 4. I'm sorry. Okay. So we're just going to keep going around. Okay. Okay. So I have finished all of my rounds. Okay. And you're supposed to do 6 of those. Okay. And I believe I did less than 6 because I have a thicker yarn and a bigger hook. So you want to make sure if you're using the 4 worsted weight yarn that you want to do those six rounds. So you're going to end up with your last stitch, and all you're going to do is just do the same through the top loop, and you're going to pull it through. And you're going to leave a long tail, and you can clip it right off of your yarn ball there. Clip that right off and leave yourself a long tail, and you're just going to pull it right through, all the way through. Okay? And you end up with a nice knot there. All right? And you can even go back and knot it again, just to give it a nice secureness about it. Okay, so here is your hat. And what you're going to do next is you're going to take these and you're going to get yourself a yarn needle and put your yarn through that needle, and you're just going to weave it into the back, just weaving through a little bit and trying to split your yarn when you can, and just make sure that it's in there enough where you don't have to worry about it coming out, and then you can clip it. You don't want your hat unraveling in the wash or anything like that. You're going to do the same with this, the top one, the top tail. is just, you can knot it again, just to give it that secureness. And you're just going to weave it right into your hat. Okay, so there you go with your first Pray and Crochet newborn baby hat.